Hey there, welcome to the Agents of Revival podcast. If you're ready to be healed and take full accountability of your life by evolving into your best self, then this is the podcast for you. I am your host, Andrea Griffin Rogers, and I'll share with you winning steps as well as personal tips and anecdotes on how to go from brokenness to wholeness and from scattered pieces to inner peace. So come on in and join me on this healing journey, and let's become whole together. Enjoy it. Hey. What's up, guys? How are you today? I pray all is well. This message stirs your faith, falls on good ground, produces good fruit in your lives. Today, we are going to talk about these boots were made for walking. And that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are going to what? Walk all over you. Hey, congrats for those that got it right. Yay! All right, I guess you heard the song too, right? Well, I wasn't listening to that song recently, but when I was creating what I was going to talk about today, and I like to do what I call lesson plans. And so I was creating the series and I was creating the lesson plan for today and what I wanted to discuss and share with you guys because I need my notes. I'm a note taker. And so I was looking at, and I actually had one title that was very different. And suddenly these boots were made for walking came into my mind. And I said, oh, I kind of like that title a little bit better. Because we're going to talk today about how you move will determine how you will manifest your vision. You know, for those it's like, where did vision come from? Again, if you are new to this season or this podcast, first of all, welcome. And then secondly, I teach in series forms. And so this entire season, we're going to talk about the vision series, and we're going to cover several different key points that pertains to vision in terms of clarity on the vision, understanding your vision, how to operate in your vision, the right team needed to see your vision grow, and how to show up and execute your vision properly, effectively, and efficiently. And so make sure you're tuning in every day so you can get these notes and tidbits that I have for you, as well as to hear my little anecdotes that I share. And so when it comes to your journey in life, a lot of times, you know what? What's the best way I want to say this? Okay, you know what? I think around the world, people will understand this. And if you don't understand this, then Google it. But every year, at the beginning of the year, everyone sets New Year resolutions. And it's a list of things that they hope to achieve this year, a list of changes they want to make in their life. And so they write it all down. Normally by this time in February, most people have forgotten those resolutions. They have lost the list. They may have ripped up the list and said, forget about it. And so they never got going. And I wanted to encourage you through this message today and empower you and strengthen you to know that you are made for walking. These boots, your life, your legs are made for walking. And if there's somebody out there that says, well, I don't have any legs right now. Okay, then your mind can move. You may not can move as freely as legs can, but your mind can move. That means it can shift. Remember we talked the other day about several days it's been about, adaptive flow. How do you change? You don't let the environment or your circumstances change you for the worse. You take the lessons and you change, you adapt for the better so that you can move forward towards your destination, towards your goal. Whatever it is that you have in mind, whatever you have envisioned for your life that you think would be better for you, or that God has said that he wants to do in your life, then you need to change and get moving. And so these boots were made for walking. Your list that you create every year, one of the main reasons why people throw away their list by now, or people tend to fall short of that list or falter away from that list, is because your why was not deep enough and your intentionality and discipline did not match what you wanted to do. Yes, you wrote it down, but you did not set a plan and action in order to achieve that goal. And so when you don't set a plan, even if you wrote it down, it's still not going to do anything. It's not going to manifest itself by just being on a piece of paper. It manifests itself by a plan of action. So you can put in your mind right now, let's say, for example, you're sick and you say, I want to be healed. So, okay, what are some practical steps that you can implement right now where you are to start walking that out? Now, for some, it may be treatment from the doctors. And discernment when it comes to treatment, because every treatment is not necessarily what's good or best for you. I know, because again, I've lived it. I've learned it. I don't teach y'all nothing I have not learned. For this particular example, I remember when it came to a medical condition that I was facing that needed healing, and the doctors were like, okay, the best way to do it is going to be surgery to completely remove the area. And so I said, okay, well, because I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, I went and I prayed about it. And, I had some, spiritual mentors and other people in my support group that my spiritual support group that prayed about it with me, and, so that I can get guidance. And at first I was like, okay, bet, let's do the surgery. But every chance that we had to schedule the surgery, something would happen. I would get really sick. And if anybody's ever went into surgery before, when you're sick, and especially when it's respiratory issues like it was for me, no, they're not going to go forward with surgery. And so my surgeries kept being delayed until finally God was like, I got to teach you a lesson, because I keep delaying this for a reason. You're not listening to reason and counsel that's saying you should not get the surgery, because that's the thing. I was hearing from other people in my support team that was like, you shouldn't get that surgery. But I was like, listen, you ain't the one dealing with this pain. Okay. You're not the one dealing with this issue, dealing with this area. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this with the surgery, because you're not the one that's fighting to stay alive. I am. And so I went through the surgery. It was a life, changing surgery. So it was that serious. And the surgery wound up being botched. And they had to stop the surgery midway point because they had punctured a hole in my abdomen, which was not where they were supposed to be. And so it was like, oh my gosh. So they had to stop the surgery. And, needless to say, the area that needed to be dealt with, to be fixed or healed and taken care of, was not. And it just made things worse. And so I remember like praying to God and crying about it and wondering, like, why did this not go the way I wanted it to go? And it was like, because God said that wasn't the healing I had for you. The healing was about your faith. I needed you to believe that I was going to heal your body. And so, needless to say, I changed my position. I changed my mind. I started to believe by faith that I was going to be healed, and my faith healed me. I never went through with the surgery. And even when I went to get a third opinion, because that was the second opinion that went wrong. So I went and get the third opinion from another doctor at another hospital. And they were like, what problem? What are you talking about? We don't see no tumors. What are you talking about? They're not there anymore. And I was like, wait, are you? No, because we went through the last surgery. They never removed anything. What are you talking about? And they went back in and was like, okay, it's this little right here, but like it's no longer like a problem. But if you want to remove this little bit that's left, then fine, we can do that. But it's not an issue anymore. And I was like, oh, well then praise God. If there's nothing wrong, then, and I don't have to go into surgery, then I'm not going to go into surgery. And so I want to give that example because, yeah, there are times where God will say, do the medication, go with the surgery, because there's another surgery that I had to have during my Job Wilderness season, which was on my hand. I had to have a carpal tunnel relief surgery. And so that was something that I did go in for, and it was a bit helpful. And so there are times where the practical step that you need to walk out is take the medication, is go through with surgery. And then other times it's believe by faith that it's going to that God's going to take care of it. That you don't have to go through with what seems extreme, what seems like it's going to alter you. You may not have to go through that, and so discernment is key in everything. You need wisdom to know how to operate, how to maneuver, how to show up, as I talked about before, in your dodgeball of life. Yes, you're on the playing field, playing your game of life, but you're going to need strategy and how to show up and what moves to make so that you get the victory. You get the win at the end of the day. And so discernment, wisdom comes into play. Prayer. You need to have a prayer life. You need to be able to go to God and ask for that wisdom and discernment and guidance, because you are not smart enough to do it by yourself, because you don't know what's up ahead. At the time when I went through with the surgery, I thought the smartest thing to do was to get rid of what the tumors were in my uterus. So I thought the smartest thing to do was just get rid of my uterus altogether. Go ahead and have a hysterectomy and just be done with it. But the thing is that I don't have any children. And God was telling me in my spirit, I have children for you. Why would you get rid of something that I'm going to one day bless? But for me, it was like, well, listen, this is where the pain is. This is where the infection is. This is where the problem is. So if I got to get rid of it, then I got to get rid of it in order to be out of this pain and stop fighting to stay alive, because I am bleeding to death and I can't keep this up anymore. And God had to remind me, I created your body and I am the blood that flows through your body. And so don't tell me that you're going to die in this, but I'm telling you you're going to live. So everything ties into faith and into that wisdom and determination and that discipline and intentionality to focus on where you're going and why. What is wisdom saying to you? Why should you make the adjustments that you're making? And then how should you make them? And so when it comes to, back to my original example of resolutions, people set up these goals and they're like, I want to achieve this by the end of the year. So I'm starting fresh at the beginning of the year. And then before you know it, they are 1 month out. You didn't even get midway point to the year. You're 1 month out and you've given up. Why? Is it because your why was not deep enough? Is it because you were trying to do it by yourself and you may have needed an accountability partner, somebody to help you on the journey, to cheer you on, to support you, to encourage you and strengthen you on? Or is it that you weren't disciplined enough about it? People, for example, want to work out at the beginning of the year, but then they fall off. But what is your why? Was your why vanity issues, or was your why in health condition, or was your why you want to just be more active? And so if you want to be more active, but you stop working out, have you supplemented the workout for something else? Because things can be working out without necessarily being in the gym. I've been learning that, because there are some days where and not consistent, but there are some days where I don't go to the gym. But what did I do besides go to the gym? Now, it could be I was out playing with my little cousins and we were running around the park or running around the house or something like that. And so I'm active. I'm running around. I'm doing different things and picking my cousins up because, they're heavy. They're aged 2, 4, 5, and 6. And so sometimes, they want to, and they're boys. So they want to wrestle and they want to play and you want to pick you up and throw them down and there's another. So that's a workout. So I am working out. So I didn't need to go to the gym that day to do that. Other times it could be, maybe I need to go to the mall for something, or maybe I need to go to the markets for something. And I go to several markets. That's why I said markets and not one market. So that's me walking around and lifting groceries and lifting cases of water. And so I'm working out. I'm being active. So it's all about perspective. Like, what are you doing? If it is you wanted to start working out at the beginning of the year, and this is a word for somebody because maybe you stopped, but what is your why? Why did you start to begin with? Now, if it was for vanity reasons, because you wanted to be skinnier, then okay, you're not going to stay consistent in that. But if it's for a health reason, or if it's because you want to stay more active, and instead of focusing on it only solely being at the gym, focus on supplementing with other ways that you can be active. It's all about changing your mind and then moving forward. Don't stay stuck. These boots were made for walking. If it's about your business, maybe you are a business owner out there, and you got hit with a dodgeball, like I talked about before, and it kind of knocked you down. You kind of took a blow to your business. Don't stay stuck there. You can deal with the emotions. You can deal with the pain, the frustration, the disappointment, whatever you're feeling. Face it, address it with yourself. If need be, get into counseling. But then you got to put up an action plan to move forward. And you don't put up an action plan that's too far-fetched for you to complete. You start off small, because your vision should be big anyway. If your vision is small, you're not thinking big enough. And when your vision is big, normally it's a vision given to you by God. It's a dream, a goal given to you by God. And so you need that strategy from God on how to go about achieving it. But what I've learned from God, the basic that anybody can use, is break it down. Don't look at the mountain and say, oh my gosh, there's the mountain peak all the way up in the clouds in the sky, and so I got to get from the valley to the mountain, and you'll be stressed out trying to figure out how to get up there. But if you start at the base level that you're at, and then start with climbing that first rock first, that first step, if you will, first in your life, then you'll find as you continue to climb, before you know it, you're at that mountain tip. But it all starts from base level and then start climbing. Part of it is belief system. What do you believe? What are you hoping for? What do you really want to achieve? And why? You're not going to hear me say less of why. Let me say that better. I'm going to always say, what is your why? Because it's so important and it's so valuable. And I feel like most people don't realize how valuable, your why is. Why do you want something? Why do you want to achieve it? Are you wanting it for the right reasons? And you may think the right reason is to stunt on somebody else, or to get somebody else, or pay somebody else back, or to show them that you made it. That's not a right reason. Your why has to go deeper than that, deeper than the surface. It has to be an internal. This entire season, we're going to focus on us, not them. What I mean by that, I mean that we're going to focus on the man or woman in the mirror. So whoever you are, look in the mirror right now, or pick up your phone and turn the camera part on. That's who we're going to focus on. The person you see looking back at you. And if your camera, cause I see some of y'all probably being slick. If your camera is facing the opposite direction, then turn it around so they focus on you. Because that's who we're going to work on this season, is us. Because in order to do anything great in the earth, in order to become our best selves, in order to make change in the world, in order to impact or influence any environment, you gotta deal with you first. Because nobody's gonna follow you, nobody's gonna listen to you, nobody's gonna want to champion behind you unless they see the work done in your life first. Because you'll become a hypocrite if you don't do it. No longer does that old school saying and mentality of do what I say, not as I do, work anymore. That motto never worked. It's now time to lead by example. If you want change in your life, lead by example. Become that change you want to see. Get walking, get moving, set a goal, write it down, make a plan of action on how to achieve that goal. And then break it down step by step so that you will ultimately get to the end of that goal. And like I said, this can go across the board. So that's why I'm not tailoring it to just one thing. This can go across the board. Apply it to whatever area of your life that you need it to be applied to. Get going. This makes me think about several stories in the Bible that I want to kind of touch on a bit. And maybe we'll get to read some scriptures. But one person in particular, as it relates to business, Makes me think about the story of Nehemiah. And if you're a Bible reader, which I hope you are, go and, read this book of Nehemiah on your own. It's in the Old Testament. But here's a man who had one job. He was a cupbearer. That's it. So basically, he was like a bartender for the king. Okay. And that was his one job. And he was, content up to a point doing that one job. He enjoyed his job until he realized something deeper happened. Something deeper affected him. Now, for him, it was seeing that, to modernize this for you, it was seeing that his hometown was in ruins. Let's say, for example, a tornado came and it struck the hometown, or a tsunami came and it struck the whole town, and it left it in ruins and destruction. Or even a hurricane came. And so he sees that it's this destruction with his hometown. And he's like, no, the people cannot survive this way. The people, the crops are destroyed. The markets are destroyed. Possibly the water is tainted. The homes are broken down. People need to be able to rebuild. And they didn't know how. And so here's Nehemiah that feels this burden on him of seeing a problem and it's bothering him. Now, at first, he doesn't know why it's bothering him so much. So he starts praying about it. As most of us do nowadays, we pray about a problem and we don't realize that a lot of times the problem that we're praying about, God's saying, you're the solution. I have placed the solution in you. That's why I allow you to see the problem. And so eventually Nehemiah realizes that God is saying to him, you are the problem solver. And so Nehemiah says, okay, well, Lord, I don't have the finances. I don't have the resources. I don't have what I need to rebuild and to help the people. So how do I go about doing this? Well, as I said before, he was the bartender to the king. So you're the bartender to the highest official in the governing land that has all the resources, finances, as well as the authority to speak a word. And it is so, to decree a law, and it comes to pass. And so all he had to do was go to his boss to say what the problem was and what he needed. But Nehemiah, like most people, felt like, I'm just the bartender. Like, I'm not even the governor. I'm not even the second in command. I'm not the vice president. I'm not the queen or whatever. Like, I'm not none of these people that seem like they should be in the cabinet position to speak to the king. So Nehemiah goes back to his regular job, bartending. Now, again, like I said, for those that are trying to figure it out, maybe you've opened your Bible right now and you're trying to find these words in the story. I am modernizing it using a practical example for a spiritual principle. I'm modernizing Nehemiah's story, but read it on your own. And so Nehemiah goes to the king and he's trying to do his job. The king says, hey, I want a drink. Put the drink together. So he puts the drink together and and, shake it and stir it, gives it to the king. King realizes, well, Nehemiah, you're not usually your upbeat self today. What's wrong? And so Nehemiah can't help but blurt out what's wrong because it's so much of a burden on his heart that it's almost like, you ever been in a situation where something hurts you so bad that the minute somebody says something to you, you might just start crying. Or for some people, maybe it turns into anger. Like the minute somebody says something, you just lash out and you don't mean it, but it's been boiling in you so much because you've been bottling up inside that the minute somebody just touch you, you explode. And so that's kind of what happens to Nehemiah. Like, soon as the king says, hey, you serve my beverage, but you're not as your usual hype, upbeat, smiling self. What's the problem? And so Nehemiah just kind of blurts out like, well, back at home, a hurricane came through, or a tornado, tsunami came through. It kind of devastated the land and my people, my family, my friends or old friends or whatever. And other people that live there, they're not protected. They don't have homes to live in. They don't have food. They don't have the resources that they need to rebuild. And it's just bothering me. And so the king says, well, what do you need? And this is his opportunity to say what he needs. And so he says, well, part of it, he knew what he needed. The other part, he didn't know what he needed. So the king says, well, you know what? I'm going to, write a letter. I'm going to sign it and seal it. Basically a decree, a law that whatever you need, is provided for you. Whatever the lumber, tools, resources, workmanship, power, whatever you need, I'm going to give it to you. Go and do it. How much time do you think it'll take for you to rebuild? And so Nehemiah says, well, I don't really quite know. I haven't been there yet to assess the damage. So the king says, all right, well, you go ahead. You do that. Nobody's going to bother you because you have my seal of approval and you have my letter, my law basically backing you to say that this is so. People are to help you do this. And so Nehemiah gets the walking towards the problem area and he solves the problem. But it started with a plan first. And even when he got there, it didn't mean that everybody was going to be on board with him, because there are some people that did not want to see the land rebuilt. They wanted to see people in ruins. And we know people like that do not want to see you win. But you can't focus on them. You got to focus on your why. Why are you there? Nehemiah could not focus on, I think it's Sanballat and Tobias who were against him. He had to focus on what he was there for. And that was it. He was there to rebuild. So he gets there and he's like, okay, I see the problems. I see the areas that need to be rebuilt. All right. I'm going to need A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm going to need these tools and resources to start building. And so he goes and he shows the letters and gets the right people to start moving and building. Then he gets some workers, gets some volunteers involved to help him build. But he broke it down. He realized why. He focused on the why. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. He realized the problem. He focused on the why. And then he broke it down into a solution. A plan of action. And then they got to work. They got walking. They got moving. And you got to do the same thing in your life. So for those that needed that for business, receive that for your business. Or whatever, maybe your family needs to be rebuilt in some capacity. And so focus on your why it matters to you. And then realize where the areas of need are. And then start doing that. Another scripture story that I'm thinking of is in Luke chapter 5. Actually, before I get to Luke chapter 5, let me go to John chapter 5, actually. And I'm actually going to read this story to you because it's just so beautiful. And it kind of just, sums this all up. John chapter 5, starting at the first verse, reads as such. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. So, putting this in modern terminology, even though there are people that's been sick for a long time, this person has been stuck in this place, stuck in this position at their job, stuck in an area or an environment they didn't like being in, stuck and being disgusted in their marriage, stuck being in these friends that they don't feel like they're serving any purpose, stuck somewhere for 38 years. So verse 6, when Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, would you like to get well? Now let's pause right here for a second. Hold on, Jesus. What you mean? Would I like to get well? What you think? I've been in this predicament for 38 years. Of course I want to get well. Or so we would think. Because that's most of people's responses. I know it was mine. Of course I want to get well. But are you putting in the action? See, you made up your mind that you want to be well. And so you feel like, well, I've done this much to get me here. But when you realize that the much that you did to get you there was not working, did you adapt? Did you change? Did you shift to figure out another way? This man did not. He said, I got somebody to bring me here to this place. And, he says, verse 7, he says, well, I can't because no one is there to put me in the pool. And every time I try to get there, somebody always gets there before me. So he has a lot of excuses as to why it has not happened. And there's nothing wrong with your excuse when it's the truth. But what can you do to change the outcome? Yes, everybody gets there before you. Yes, somebody got the opportunity first. Yes, this happened. Yes, this person did you wrong. Yes, they betrayed you. Yes, all these things are facts. I taught in the Trigger Wars series of season 3. Go listen to that if you missed it. Trigger Wars, fact versus truth. Yes, this is the fact, but what's the truth? The truth is that this was not the end. The truth is that though all these things happen to you, how can you adapt to move forward? What's the truth is that you can set up a new plan of action. You can choose to change your mind and forgive, let go, move forward, deal with, heal from what did not work, and put in a new plan of action. You can start today. You may have set up New Year's resolution goals at the beginning of the year, and now we're in February and you dropped off, but you can start today and say, you know what, I'm going to try again. I'm going to put in a new plan of action and get walking, get moving forward. I'm not going to stop here. I know it failed last time, but let me see if there's a way that I can adjust, a way that I can shift gears. In this particular example, this man is standing in front of the one who has the healing. He's standing in front of the Messiah. And so he's saying, do you want to get well? He didn't ask him all the excuses. He knows that he's been in this position, in this predicament for 38 years. So I'm not asking you nothing that's not fact. I get that. I didn't ask you what's the excuses. I asked you, do you want it? What is your why? Do you want it bad enough? Because if you want it bad enough, then discipline will keep you moving forward regardless. Discipline will help you to shift gears and still keep going, keep walking regardless. Trusting that this may be the opportunity. Yes, that relationship may have done you wrong, but this new one may not be the wrong one. Especially if you know you have addressed the areas of the past, you've done the healing in yourself, and you're moving forward. To trust that the next time may be the right person. That's like with this example. He couldn't even recognize that the answer came right in front of him because he was so consumed with the excuses of what didn't work before. Okay, that's facts. It didn't work before. Okay, but the truth is, do you want it now? If you want it now, then let's adjust. Let's adapt. Let's move forward. Let's get walking. And so verse 8, Jesus says, stand up, pick up your mat and walk. And verse 9 concludes part of his story. Instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. It doesn't matter all the excuses of what didn't work out before. You can decide today to make a decision to try again. That's what it was. This man made a decision to try again. Yes, I want to be healed. Yes, I want to get well. Yes, I want to get stuck out of this position. Yes, I want to have a better marriage. Yes, I want to have healthier friendships. Yes, I want to be married and have a relationship one day. What is your why? Focus on that. And so break it down again through these 3-point takeaways that we talk about throughout this entire session. Identify the problem, because God cannot address the message you pretend is not there. You got to be honest about where you are. Yes, you failed. Yes, it didn't work out before. Yes, the person hurt you. Yeah, like identify it. Be honest that this happened and it hurt and it stung and it left a mark. Identify where the issue is in your life, where you went wrong, where you stopped trying, where you stopped believing. And then figure out your why. As I said before, your why has to be deeper than surface. And so if your why is for vanity issues, if your why or purposes, if your why is because you want to pay somebody back because they did you wrong, then chances are you are not going to be disciplined enough to pursue it. Your why has to run deeper than you. Why is it important to you? What difference do you think it'll make in your life? Who are you really doing it for? Figure out your why. And then the last one is stay focused on your why once you figure it out, because you're going to need it in the process. Like I said yesterday, it's easy to get caught up in how hard things are going to be, or the challenges you're going to face, or even when you're choosing to start again, it's not going to be easy. But your why is going to keep you grounded to keep moving forward. And as long as you stay rooted and focus on that why, you will ultimately receive and achieve your goal. Get walking, because these boots, your life is made for walking. It's made for moving forward. I'm not talking about actual physical boots. I'm talking about your life was never meant to stay stuck in the position and the circumstances and the environment that you're in. It was always meant to move you forward. And so take the lessons that you have learned this far. Take the meat, throw away the bone. That means throw away the negative stuff that will no longer serve you purpose. Throw away the things that were hard and challenging, that got you here, that were hurtful, that were traumatic. Heal, deal with it, and then start putting in a plan of action on how to move forward. Part of that healing may be for some of you to get into counseling. I would love to say for all of you, but I know some people are stubborn and may feel like, I don't need no counseling. Okay. I am one person that's going to tell you counseling works. I'm an advocate for counseling. And then get going, because these boots were made for walking. So we are out of time. Well, actually over time. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. Cause his face shine upon you. May the Lord God be gracious to you. Show you his favor and give you shalom. Give his peace. Take care. Love you guys. Bye now.